Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Talking Reds. I'm here with my comedy partner, Gibbons. All right.
Would you say we're the best things about Wednesdays now? I mean, it's a pretty average day, isn't it? You know, so we're not setting the bar too high.
Well, this is it. It's when you get to that midweek lull and you need a little pick-me-up. Here we are to brighten your day up.
Absolutely.
Brighten your day up is probably quite appropriate because it's absolutely Baltic outside. It's one of those put your underwear on the radiator before you get in the shower kind of mornings.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
I mean, I do that anyway, but today it was very, very important.
There's hail moving in the wind, and it looks quite eerie out, you know, across the pavements. Looks quite, you know, you can't see it, but you just take my word for it. It's a bit Sixth Sense.
It is, but because we're in Liverpool, snow never settles, so you know it'll turn to ice soon enough. And anyway, we don't need to do a weather report. We've got plenty of football to talk about. Now, first off, our captain has had an exclusive interview with the Echo, which has been pretty much reprinted word for word in the Mirror, but it was a very interesting interview in as much as he does all the things that you expect your captain to say. He says that they're doing well and nothing's happened. But one of the key points I took from it was that he was very keen to stress that as good as we're playing right now, the 100 goals is fantastic, talking up the front three or whatever they want to call it these days. Nothing matters until we start winning something. And he was really keen to put that out. I think he mentions it twice within the interview. So it's good to know that as much as we're all happy seeing our team play, and we're allowed to be happy and enjoy watching our team play, they know that the end game's not arrived yet, John.
Yeah, and I think that's the right message to be putting out. You've got to remember that Jurgen Klopp's actually banned the squad from touching the "this is Anfield" sign because he thinks that, you know, not until you won stuff that you should be kind of allowed to do that, which is quite an extreme measure. But I think it's just something that's a constant reminder to them that basically if you play for a Liverpool Football Club, you need to be successful, because that's what, you know, we have been ever since, well, at least since Bill Shankly came in anyway, although there was plenty of league titles before that too. And so I think he's obviously installing that in them. Jordan Henderson is the captain, so he kind of wants to reinforce that to the squad, and I think it's right. But you know, there still is. Well, I was going to say one trophy to play for, but Jordan thinks there's two, isn't there? He's not giving up.
He's not, and I think we're all quite pleased to hear it. It's another one of those things that you almost expect to hear someone say, but by the same token, it's like essentially what he said is that Manchester City's title is theirs to lose, but we haven't given up yet. He says we're Liverpool. We can't just give up. Now that part is what you really want to hang on to as a fan. It's the fact that if they're going into games believing that they can be reeled back in, then there's going to be no switching off. There's going to be no kind of letting it go or any kind of weaker performances. They're going to be sharp and on it every single time they take on the pitch.
Well, I mean, they need to be if they want to finish as high as possible as well. So it's the right attitude to have. But you would kick yourself, wouldn't you, if Man City stumbled or whatever and did a bit of a Devon lock and you were just drawing games because you kind of given up. I mean, they need to be kind of winning games anyway. But why not? I mean, there's nothing to be gained from giving Manchester City the title now. So why not kind of, you know, keep going and keep going through it? And I think he says the right things, Jordan. I like him as a club captain. I understand that others might be looking towards someone like Van Dijk now, who's more likely to be playing every week. Jordan's got to be careful with his injuries now, and you know doesn't play at the weekend. It isn't necessarily a guaranteed starter at the moment. So I think a few people are starting to say, well, maybe Van Dijk captain next year. I'm not sure, because first of all, I don't think that Jurgen Klopp sees it as a bigger deal as a lot of Liverpool fans do. But also, I think captain sees as much about what you do off the pitch as what you do on it. Do we really want to be putting all this extra stuff on Van Dijk, or would you rather him just concentrate on being the best defender there's ever been?
He's still new here. I mean, it looks like he's got that under control, to be fair. But yeah, you're right. We don't need to give him extra pressure. And if you look back at some of the other great teams of recent past, I'm thinking of City this season, Chelsea last season. The club captain and the team captain weren't always the same.
Yeah.
If you think about Vincent Kompany and John Terry in particular, they were still the driving force behind that club behind the scenes. They were still the guys who lifted the trophies, as I remember. But they weren't the guys on the pitch wearing the armband more often than not, because they weren't quite as key as they had been. So as much as I still think Jordan Henderson's got a part to play in our first 11, I think the idea that he can be club captain without necessarily always being team captain is definitely something I subscribe to. One other thing he did mention in this interview, and something that's been a lot of mention about recently, is the comparison between this team and the 2013-2014 team, particularly within the front three. Now, the Mirror going to go into a bit more detail with the stats, looking at how many they scored and how many we scored and chances created and everything. Jordan, he kind of sits on the fence a little bit, as you expect him to do. He's a diplomatic chap, is Jordan. But one thing he did say, and one thing I would echo again, is that that team didn't win the title. And I mean, this team probably isn't going to win the title this year either. So the real kind of stock of doing those kind of comparisons for my money is what happened the season after and building on the success we've had, which is something in the past, John, we haven't been that great at.
Yeah, it's all about keeping this team together now, isn't it? It's a really exciting team, especially the attacking unit. They work really well together, and that's what I would say about the 13-14 team was look, they were great going forward, but it was an attacking force of individuals, really. Sturridge and Suarez had spent as much time shouting at each other as they were passing to each other, whereas this front three in particular seems like a greater than its sum of its parts, which is brilliant, but that's even more reason to want to keep hold of them and keep going into next season, because if this is what they can do after just meeting each other, then
exactly.
Then who knows where they could go.
It's a very good point. I don't remember seeing Suarez doing any wriggly arm stances.
And the season was all the poorer for it.
It was. Okay, moving on. There's been a lot of movement in the transfer world as well. I know that we've got another gutter being recorded.
Yeah, gutter being recorded today. Rob Gutman's in the hot seat. I'm actually on that show as well, so it should be a lot of fun. So that'll be a full roundup. That's all part of Talk Player, our subscriber service, as you know by now, £5 a month. I'm sure to listen to all that. But Rob wanted to sneak one in today, and why not? Because there's absolutely loads to talk about. Alisson is a rumour that won't go away. Buffon's been talking about him today, saying what a good goalkeeper he is, saying he doesn't know why people are suddenly talking about him. You know, people are surprised how good he is. He says, what strikes me is how he deals with dangerous situations so efficiently. That gives his team a lot of confidence, which is, I mean, I don't really understand those words with a goalkeeper, to be honest with you, Mo. But we're talking about a keeper who gives his whole defence confidence. Jokes aside, it's something that we've not really had. Obviously, Mignolet, you always sense that they were never really sure about him. Karius is doing okay at the moment, but he's not necessarily a keeper who
we could do with having a Karius security blanket. Always. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean to say Karius could never be our number one, but in case he can't, he can still be a very good number two. Now, I've watched a lot of Alisson. I've watched him on and on and on. It's an old joke for you. And he never seems to be kind of, you're right in what they say, is the pressure situations. He's very unflappable. He doesn't get upset. Even if someone beats him, like some of the goals conceded in the Shakhtar game, some people are saying that maybe he should have done better with the Fred chance. I think it was a pretty good goal. But essentially, the thing that I've been impressed about is that recently, while there's been all this speculation about him, his performance level hasn't dropped. If anything, it's increased. If you look at some of his recent performances in Serie A, he knows everyone's watching him. He knows people are talking about him. And rather than letting it get into his head, he's still professional enough to get on with the job at hand. And I think he'd be great in our team. I think when you look at the move forward we've made with Karius in terms of how attacking he is on the front foot, that's another thing Alisson's good at. So you can almost see the evolution of the team growing with every piece coming in, and he would be a very good piece, I think. There's been some other Italian-flavoured transfer news as well, hasn't there?
Yeah, little bits. Yeah, Zielinski, who's someone who we got linked with a couple of years ago, very strongly. Apparently they were quite close to getting him. It never happened for one reason or another. Apparently Liverpool are back and look at him. I mean, there's two midfielders obviously in this Napoli side that Liverpool have been linked with Jorginho as well. All I know about Napoli is that they keep scoring the best goals in the world. Like, I just follow Mondial Mag on Twitter and they just keep going, Napoli have done it again. And there's these like an amazing team goals. So it's sometimes difficult in those situations to know who the star is and who you kind of should be looking at, really. But I mean, you do the European show, which is really popular on Talk Player at the moment. So I mean, what do you make of Napoli, and who would, if you could take one of their players, which one would you go for?
Well, to be honest with you, I watched Napoli 5-0 against Cagliari on Monday night, and it was superb. That was one of those goals was in there, the hat-trick goal. And You're right in as much as they look like a team together who everyone knows what everyone else is going to do, so you can make moves accordingly. Regarding Zielinski, he's a good player. I think he's done really well for them.
£57 million they're talking now.
He's not in their starting 11. That's the problem. He's not playing in the starting 11 because they've got Jorginho and Allen at the base of the midfield, and then you've got Hamsik, Insigne, Mertens and Callahan, who are the four who kind of interchange and basically you're doing all the dazzling things up front. I would be looking, personally, I've said it in Lorenzo Insigne all the season long, I think he's a fantastic player. He's more in the Coutinho mould in as much as he's a tricky dribbler rather than a power dribbler like Naby Keita is. I think he could do well. Personally, I don't think Klopp's looking for that kind of player again. So I'd be looking at Dries Mertens, honestly. I think that our front three as it is probably still going to be our starting front three at the beginning of next season. So we've got to look at ways of adapting that, maybe different types of play. And he's the kind of a wide forward who would be able to thrive in the 4-2-2-2-2 or 4-3-3. And he's a good guy. I like him a lot. So he would be my pick out of the Napoli team, personally.
If I could take anything from Napoli, it'd be the kit. I really like it. It's really nice. If we could away kit next year, Napoli colours, I'd really like that.
It is blue.
Oh, it's a nice blue. That the Napoli one, the one that Maradona wore with the Mars. I Google that every now and again, and by every now and again I mean once a week, and like it's about like £100 on these like classic football shirt sites, which is fine, you know, if that's what it's the worth and stuff. But if anyone can find me one near the £30 mark, I really like it.
£100?
Oh, you wear the day now these old footy shirts. You know, I wish I'd have kept all mine. Honestly, like there's like, you know, there's early 90s Liverpool ones going for a ton, and you're like, oh come on, that was rubbish even when we were playing in it. Yeah, dig them out, Mo, if you've got them.
I've got one like
set up a stall at the next Laces Out Fest.
the '93 one with the 100 years centenary.
Oh yeah, you'll get dough for that. Like
I've got that.
Oh yeah, there's money in that.
Dad, if you're listening, get in the attic now, dig that bastard out.
So yeah, good to being recorded today. So there'll be all that and more on that as well. Just before we go to the papers as well, I just want to do a quick news item. The under 23s today are due to, well, they are playing Porto in the International Cup quarter-final. That was due to be at Tranmere tonight at 7 o'clock. The pitch is icy, so they've had to move that to late. It's now going to be behind closed doors game at Lee. The Premier League have asked for that for kind of whatever reason. I mean, no one really wants to go to Lee anyway, I'll be honest. But yeah, but it is on LFC TV, so you can watch that on LFC TV tonight, 7 o'clock.
Do you think we have any Liverpool fans in?
No, it's all Manx, isn't it? It's all Manx. It's true, it's fine. So yeah, so that's tonight. So that's been news. Bit.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just thinking that if there is anyone out there from Lee, please come in the comments and we'll get you on to discuss it with the giveaway. But yeah.
Newspapers.
In the meantime, papers. And we're back with today's papers. And we're starting off with something which is, I mean, it's not happened for a long time, so it's probably going to cause a lot of debate. But Liverpool are going to be playing on the same day as the Grand National coming up against Bournemouth on April 14th. Now, normally on Grand National weekend, we would swap to the Sunday, but obviously with Sunday being April 15th, the date that we haven't played since 1989, that's not possible. Now, obviously, Joe Anderson's head's had a bit of a wobble, bless him, as it always seems to do. And he thinks it's impossible and unworkable. But, John, there must have been some collusion between the police and the club for it to be agreed.
Yeah, look, this fixture's been in the calendar for a long time, and we knew it'd be that date. I'm a little bit surprised that they're not doing it early, just to kind of get it out the way, and then police could always kind of shift up. It's also a shame for people who like to enjoy the Grand National Day. You know, I know Mike Nevin goes every year, for example. There'll be a lot of other Liverpool fans who would have been maybe hoping to do both, who can't now. So I'm a little bit surprised it's 5:30 rather than 12:30, which was, you could have got in your seats and then kind of dived up and made the last few races, including the big one. So yeah, a little bit surprised by that, but as you said, they'll have spoken to the police, and I think Joe Anderson, who's had his role reduced in importance, let's say, since the arrival of the Liverpool region mayor and things like that, I think just wants to kind of throw his weight around a little bit. I'm sure the police will be able to cope. I'm sure, look, Grand National's a brilliant day, never really any trouble, and this Liverpool game shouldn't be one that attracts too much anyway. So The police will be out, and there'll be it'll be kind of all hands on deck. But I'm sure they'll be able to cope admirably with whatever's going on.
I think that's the key, isn't it? The fact that, with all due respect, Liverpool-Bournemouth isn't really a rivalry or anything that. I mean, by that stage of the season, Bournemouth, they'll probably still be fighting for their lives, but I mean, essentially they'll have a bit of a buffer. It won't become. I can't see it becoming a fractious atmosphere. I think the only interesting thing for me, someone who's normally going to be DJing Saturday night. I will be playing that Saturday night. And Grand National Night is always crazy, but there's going to be an hour staggered between people leaving Anfield and leaving Aintree. So as long as the transport and the taxi drivers of Liverpool can handle it, and I don't get caught up in all of that business, then I've got no problem with it. Just
like to publicly apologise to Mo for my sister and her friend's behaviour on a Grand National Night. Now, I think it's important to be able to get that out of the way.
Are you going to tell them where I'm going to be?
They'll find you, Mo, don't worry.
Yeah,
you'll hear them.
Hear the clattering down the way. Yeah, you're probably right, I will hear them. Another story has come out and is kind of handily positioned right next to it in the newspaper, is about the Champions League restructuring. Now, this is being billed as good news for Liverpool, and essentially it's good news for Liverpool because it means that from the 2018-2019 season, we're not going to have to go through the qualifiers. There will be 4 English teams straight into the Champions League, as there will be from Italy, Spain and Germany. There will be 2 qualifiers automatically from France and Russia, and then there'll only be 6 going through the qualifiers as opposed to 10 this year. Now, people across England are happy with it. I'm kind of not, John. I mean, from the perspective of the competition as a whole, I think that the idea of us playing the same teams over and over again increases with this rule. And I'm not necessarily sure that familiarity breeds contempt, if you put it in those terms.
I agree. Look, I think it does kind of help Liverpool. It's good news for us. But in terms of, look, I always think, if you can't get through a qualifier against Standard Liège or whoever it is, then do you kind of deserve to be in the tournament? I think, it just adds a bit more chance for teams from leagues who aren't as traditionally as strong. But it's a funny one when you look at those other leagues, though, because I think. I read something recently, and I can't remember where it was, so apologies, but said basically because of all the money in the Premier League, you're actually more chance to get different teams in the Champions League places than you are, say, in Norway. Whereas, if you come top and you get all that Champions League money, then it's kind of weighting it almost unfairly in that regard. So more so because the National League, aren't doing kind of £1 million per place like the Premier League are. So that was kind of an interesting one, really. But so I think we're creating an elite already just by the Champions League existing with all the money, a kind of across Europe. But this just kind of seems to be cementing it, and it seems to me that we were saying we must have all the kind of big names in there. Well, you think, well, why do you? If I think it's going to be hilarious if Real Madrid don't qualify this year. By the way, they got beat again last night, didn't they?
They did.
I think it's going to be hilarious.
Oh, keep your eyes on the next European.
They'll find some way to let them in. They'll change these rules again.
They'll have the legends rule. Well, to be honest, John, they could still win it this year.
Well, I know
that's the kicker,
they could take the Liverpool route.
Although, in reality, that happened to them before it happened to us. I believe it's 2000. They finished 6th and won the Champions League and got in.
I think that's true. Yeah. So they've done it before, but but Liverpool are going to win the Champions League, so it's fine.
Yeah, fine. We won't bother about that any longer. And there is some more transfer or paper news, should we say? It's not really transfer. Someone who we loaned out, who unfortunately has had another setback, Daniel Sturridge. He's only played 77 minutes for West Brom, John. I mean, I do feel for him as well, but you've got to look at it from the point of view of West Brom in as much as they can hardly be surprised at this, really, can they?
No, but I understand why they made the gamble. Look, he's an elite level footballer when he's fit, and he's someone that, if he didn't have these injury problems, wouldn't even be thinking about the possibility of going to West Brom. So West Brom were and are in a terrible league position. They've rolled the dice on Daniel Sturridge. It looks like it's not going to come off because I think by the time he comes back, it's going to be kind of...
They could already be relegated by the time he comes back.
So it hasn't worked out for them. You feel for them, but it just shows that, I think there was there was a few voices, not loads, but a few voices critical of the decision to let Daniel Sturridge go out on loan because we've already sold Coutinho and we were a little bit late. But it just shows that obviously the guys who were working with him day after day just didn't have any faith in him. They
probably knew that we wouldn't be able to rely on.
Exactly.
I think from a Liverpool perspective, part of the reason why that whole thing happened wasn't just the fact that we'd let Coutinho go and we were like, we need someone in, but I think it was the fact that Solanke hadn't really kind of got to the page where we could rely on him. So here's hoping in the next 2 weeks or so, Solanke gets the goal, so then we can all relax a little bit more about that situation.
Yeah, he scored a hat-trick the other night for the under-23s, Solanke, so yeah, he's still got goals in his boots. They're still there. We just need to be seeing it at first team level. So yeah, fingers crossed for him.
And so we wanted to end on something a bit more joyous and a bit more comedic. So Big Sam's on the brink. Let's go with that, shall we?
Yeah, well, we'll go into it too much because there was a lot on Everton this week. And Robbo did a lot yesterday. Robbo's harder than me, so he can take all the abuse from the Evertonians. But this is a Daily Star exclusive, which has Big Sam's on the brink. Apparently, Mashidi wants a young, vibrant manager to take Everton forward. And apparently, that's not Big Sam.
Wait, so he's only decided this now?
Well, I think he was always thought that Sam was, stopgap in his mind. So I think he's kind of coming clean on that. But there was another story related to an ex-Everton and Man United player there, Phil Neville. I just wanted to highlight that as well. He says, "You all want me to fail." It's in the Express as well. Neville, everyone wants me to fail. I'd like to point out to Phil Neville that this isn't all about you. This is an England women's team that we support, especially the Liverpool players who are in there. So good luck in this tournament. It's a 4-team tournament that England are in with a lot of elite teams across Europe. So we've got Siobhan Chamberlain and Alex Greenwood, both friends of the Anfield Wrap and both brilliant footballers for Liverpool and England. So good luck to them and good luck to the England women's team. And Phil Neville, it's not all about you.
And the only good decision you've made so far was appointing Casey Stoney on the coaching staff.
He's a Liverpool legend too. So mentioned it already, but good to be recorded today. That'll be out later tonight. There's also Gutman's overview, which will be his wider picture look at what's going on in Liverpool season. That's also been recorded today and will also be out today. So there are your two shows. So it's £5 a month to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. It's an exciting time for the football club and it's an exciting time here. So really good time to get involved if you've been not sure. No minimum sign-off fee. So if you want to try it for a month, if it's not for you, you can cancel. But most people stay because they get more mo than they can handle.
You guys. It's not all about me either. I'm not going to fall down the Phil Neville route.
I mean, who'd want to do that?
Robert will be back with you tomorrow. Up the Reds.